Breaking news out of the Manhattan DA's office. We are just hearing that there won't be a vote of the grand jury for Donald Trump today, the way it was widely anticipated on the Stormy Daniels hush money payments case. DA Alvin Bragg has asked the grand jury to stand down. They don't have to come in today, but to be on standby for tomorrow, potentially to hear either another witness or to vote on the indictment. So just backing up a little bit where we are, the Manhattan DA's office has assembled a special grand jury, and the special grand jury is routine when you have a case that can't be presented in a short period of time, so a long-term case like this. And special grand juries meet either in mornings or in afternoons, and they usually meet 2 to 3 days a week. We know that this special grand jury meets Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday afternoons. So those are the only days you would expect anything to come out of the grand jury. How do we know they meet those days and the afternoons? We know because of people like Michael Cohen who have testified in the afternoon on Monday and Wednesday have told us that that's when they do. So that's how you know when they are meeting and when they may vote. As you know, we were at the end of the grand jury presentation when they asked Donald Trump if he wanted to come in and testify. He declined that. But what he did do was he asked that his own witness, attorney Costello, who was Michael Cohen's attorney, that he come in and he testified. And he testified for almost 3 hours, which is a very long period of time when it comes to giving testimony before a grand jury. Grand jury is not a trial. It's not even a mini trial. It's just you're supposed to provide legally sufficient evidence that a prima facie case was met. And really the standard is probable cause. You don't even have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt in just to get an indictment. So is it more likely than not? But so sometimes witnesses in the grand jury will testify for 20 minutes or a half hour. You know, it's not a full-blown testimony the way you'd see at a trial. So for him to testify for 3 hours, he had the opportunity to tell them anything that he wanted and to give whatever evidence he thought was relevant. And after that, they ended almost at 5 o'clock after he testified on Monday. So they weren't going to vote then. And Tuesday they weren't sitting. So today was the day that everyone thought, okay, perhaps today will be the day that they vote, that they ask the grand jury to vote and potentially indict. So it's been widely reported by various news outlets that has been canceled and the grand jury won't sit and meet today. So what's going on behind the scenes is anyone's guess, but there are 3 possibilities. Number one, they have another witness that they want to call to potentially rebut or to, negate things that were said by Mr. Costello. That's one possibility. And today they could be preparing that witness, for example, to testify, or they could just be considering whether or not they want to call another witness. So that could be happening today. The other thing that could be happening today is they're deciding whether or not to even ask the grand jury to vote. Now, I think that's the least likely possibility, but that certainly is a possibility. Perhaps Mr. Costello went in and gave them pause about whether or not this case should be brought. The third and other kind of likely possibility that I think is going on, excuse me, is that a big concern here is how to get Donald Trump to New York safely and keep everyone in New York safe as well, and in front of a court to be arraigned on an indictment if an indictment is voted by the grand jury. And those discussions have been going on with Secret Service and other law enforcement to make those arrangements because logistically there are challenges to getting him here safely. He has, first of all, he has to agree to come because law enforcement in New York does not have jurisdiction in Florida to arrest someone. So he has to come on his own volition. Otherwise, you have to get local law enforcement involved and you have to get Governor DeSantis involved and Governor Hochul, which, extradition from another state is something that is done all the time. But obviously, this case is not like any other and this defendant is not like any other. So the best possible scenario would be to get him to agree to come. And part of what's going to go into whatever his surrender date is going to be questions like what's convenient for the court. what is convenient for him scheduling wise, and most importantly, what is from a public safety standpoint, logistically, what is the best day for him to come in. And we've heard from various sources that that date is likely next week. And so my thinking when I heard that was that they wouldn't ask the grand jury to indict today, because as soon as a grand jury votes and a president is indicted, the former president, I should say, the indictment is sealed so it's legally sealed because he hasn't been arrested yet, which means you're not supposed to hear about it. You're not supposed to know about it until he goes to court and he is told the charges are by a judge, and then he's arraigned on those charges and he pleads not guilty. However, if he is voted to indict, there's 23 people in the grand jury who will know about it. There are court personnel who will know about it. There will be people in the DA's office who know about it. And of course, there'll be law enforcement who know about it. So although none of those people are supposed to leak the information, there's obviously a possibility that when so many people know of something, that it could get leaked. And if that is the case, and of course, they have to tell Donald Trump about it. And we all know that he likes to talk about these things publicly. So my money is on him, that he'd be the first person to leak it, or his team. And he would try to drum up and gin up support, which for him comes in the form of violence, like he did on January 6th. He's already making statements that sound like the insurrection in January 6th. And so from a law enforcement standpoint, you want very little daylight between the vote of the indictment and the surrender. In fact, if I were law enforcement in this case, I would probably choose the day that I ask the grand jury to vote based on his potential surrender date, because you can always call it off. If the grand jury chooses not to indict him, they can always call off the surrender and say, never mind, don't come. But if the surrender date is next week, we might not see an indictment until next week. But who knows? This is all just me discussing what's going on behind the scenes. I don't have any inside information about what's going on, but those are the possibilities of what's happening in the Manhattan DA's office right now, and where we are. So thank you for joining. Please join tonight at 8:00 for Legal AF. We're going to do a live broadcast, and we can talk about the events of what's going on today.
Lock him up! Indictment season is upon us. Celebrate with the new Indictment Season t-shirt and v-neck exclusively at store.MeidasTouch.com.